I'm going to talk for a few minutes about what I can only term as the spooky side of gang stalking. Now, up until making this video, I haven't talked much, maybe touched briefly on some of my own personal experiences in terms of having been sensitized to certain things and having those triggers or certain stimulus used repeatedly after sensitization, whether it have been a color, a sound, or a certain visual aspect, which are always going to be common, relatively ordinary things, but used in a very neuro-linguistic way that's weaponized to to evoke a certain psychological reaction out of the person. But in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the truly eerie things that can happen if you are a targeted person and you've been through gang stalking. Now, I can fully, even based on some experiences I've had, and I know a lot of other people have had, I can fully understand how many targeted individuals and people who have had to go through a gang stalking experience would attribute some of these things to the supernatural and would believe that this is an entirely demonic occurrence, because some of the things that will happen to you are very hard to explain by normal means. They in no way match any kind of typical life experience, and a lot of times this can leave someone either frightened, or it will leave them somewhat perplexed at the very least as to even how some of this stuff can be done to a person. And I certainly don't claim to know how by any kind of specific mechanism all of these things are done, but I do know that some of the aspects of this experience are, even in the discussion realm of talking about remote weapons and things like that, is very hard to rationalize or explain outside of a supernatural event. And some of them are just plain bizarre. So I'm going to describe or talk about the truly eerie and simply no other way to put it, a spooky side of this whole thing. And a lot of other targeted people who've been through this know what this is like. It's very strange, and I personally have had experiences where I didn't know how it was possible that some of these things would be able to be synchronized in the way that they were. I have there have been times where you may think that you indeed are completely alone. In my case, working night maintenance for a company, the company that I work for, I've done held several different positions, and one of those was night maintenance. And a lot of times I would be there completely alone. Well, during the height of this whole experience, I would be working, and I would have things happen to me while being supposedly completely alone, at work, uh, things that would happen. There would be things that would take place that would truly be perplexing as to how it would even be something that could happen. And so this can make you feel as though it's very bewildering, and makes you wonder how it's possible that if you, well, even for example, if you were alone in your house and something seemed to, um, it seems as though, you may speak something out loud or have a private conversation, or even you may be making a video like the one I'm making now in your home, and somehow there will be some kind of indication once you go out in public that someone is aware of what you are saying, and there's things like this that happen. And in my case, during the height of my actual gang stalking experience, where things were at their peak intensity, uh, I had things happen at work that, for example, I would find objects on the floor. I would notice there was one time I was able to notice a certain object that it was a complimentary packet of. It was a very common item to be at my place of work. It was something that's normally setting out in the open that people can freely take, and it was a complimentary jelly pack of self-contained jelly, the kind that you would put on a biscuit, and these are made of like an aluminum type of material. Well, I would find these, and they would be smashed as though someone had stepped on them. But the way that these packets, and this happened a few times, maybe a couple times, 2-3 times at the most, that I would find these packets and they would be smashed in such a way as to be in a certain shape, in the shape of what I can really only describe as a pentagram. And there would be, in the same way that there's serial numbers on objects like this, the serial numbers would relate to certain things in the occult. Like there would be, one of these packets had several, and serial numbers are usually very, they don't usually follow, this typically like a very random set of numbers. Well, this would be a specific set of numbers that would be easily recognizable, and especially in relation to something in the occult. So there were other things that would happen. I would notice that certain kinds of equipment that shouldn't have been running would suddenly start running by themselves when I walked by them. And then later when I would go to check on them, they would turn off by themselves. And there were times where I would be in a various compartment or department of this building, and I would be able to hear the machinery running in another part of the building that I would typically not be able to hear there. There's no complete sound isolation. There's no way that I could hear those machines from where I was at, but yet they were clearly and very loudly running. And also radio, there's a radio system. A lot of these buildings, a lot of businesses have radio systems, and they'll play stations for the employees and things like that. Well, it would be, and this is a third shift job, so there would be times where radios that are supposed to turn off at a certain time of night before I get started working, that when I would arrive there, they would be off. And at a certain point in my shift, and normally they're not supposed to turn on at all while I'm there, that there would be a certain time in my shift where I would be in an area and the radio speakers near where I'm at would suddenly turn on completely by themselves. So if if someone if someone has to describe an experience like this, these are truly bizarre experiences, and I completely understand where someone is coming from when they say, or when I hear them say, that they believe that this is somehow supernatural or it's demons or demonic. And I'm a Christian, so uh, if it is something supernatural, that's exactly what I would suspect, that it would be something that was demonic, or somehow it just doesn't make any sense. So you're going to have very weird things like this happen to you that you just can't explain. And I suppose in a completely electrical means it might be possible, but if it is by some means of remote electricity manipulation, it would have to be highly advanced. So these are things that that are just very bizarre, and this is what I've just explained is not in any way comprehensive. There are other things that I've experienced that I truly cannot, by any means of logic or typical occurrences, I can't explain how they would occur. So it's very common if you're going through a stalking experience and you are a targeted person, you will most likely have things happen to you that you truly cannot explain by any normal means.